Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining this session. Today, we have Professor Varadraj Bapat, who is a professor at the Shailesh Mehta School of Management at IIT Bombay. He is a chartered accountant, he's a cost accountant, and an information system audit professional. He has his PhD from IIT Bombay, and he has consulting and teaching experience of over 28 years. He has authored many research papers in high impact international journals and done numerous research projects. He has authored six books published by reputed publishers like Tata McGraw Hills. He has also spent a term researching investment research at the Parker Center for Investment Research at Cornell. He is also a facilitator of a great many popular online courses facilitated by Swayam and other university online programs, extension programs. His areas of research including accounting, financial inclusion, bankruptcy production, corporate governance, family business, portfolio management, spirituality, Indian economics and management, and yoga. He's a member of the Board of Governors at IIT Guwahati and the All India Board of Management Studies at AICTE. He's a member of the NAC peer review team, a chancellor nominee on the management council of the Shivaji University, the Academic Council of North Maharashtra University, and the Academic Council of Baba Sahib Ambedkar Technology University. He has, of course, delivered a large number of online courses, sessions such as this one. You will find him speaking on a great many topics on YouTube and has been a guest on several TV shows as well. Professor is also a mentor of Think India and close mentor of Sarthak, Kanksha, myself, and a lot of us at the program team. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Bapat to give a session on Indian management models and the evolution of public management in India. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, namaste everyone. Thanks to organizers, and I'm happy that we have got about 60 interested players in public policy, and I hope you would be getting a good exposure out of this entire series. And I think this is the first one, is it?
This is the second winter school, sir. This is the
Okay.
third session of this winter school.
Third session
We
of
had
winter school.
summer school last month, which also you
Correct,
had.
correct. So we are going to talk a little bit about public policy, public management as organizers have put it. So as it was described, he really gave a nice introduction about me, but you would have realized that I am not as such a official public policy person, but out of keen interest for various type of social work and leadership type of activities, I have been involved, and that's where I will try to talk about little bit about public policy. So I'll share my PPT. Yeah, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Clearly visible, sir.
Yeah, so we'll discuss a bit about evolution of public policy. As we all know, public policy is mainly concerned with solving any public problems. Generally, it has a legal backing, but not necessarily. Several times it is out of voluntary compliance by public, and the intention is better regulation of public behavior or having some check, some regulation of bureaucracy, proper distribution of benefits, or taking tax without really hurting the population and so on. This could be many objectives of public policy. In contemporary sense, public policy is viewed as a kind of American discipline, and it has a 20th century flavor. So usually it is in 1930s or 40s where it is considered that formal public policy evolved. And this belief comes from the understanding that prior to this, the world was ruled by monarchies. There were kings, and kings used to follow some public policy, but in a very ad hoc manner. So it was driven by the wishes of some kings, or maybe wishes of some people in their darbar and so on. That's what is understood, and that is why a systematic public policy is supposed to have evolved in 1930s or 1940s. But this is not entirely true, because we know that in Bharat we have a very long tradition wherein the kings used to have very prominent, very influential advisors, and those advisors have created certain type of regulation, certain type of policy guidelines, which will be not only followed by one king, it will be followed by series of rulers. In that case, there is a good documentation of public policy which we find in our scriptures. So a monarch or a king was not completely autonomous, or was not completely dictatorial in that sense, because whatever the king feels, there was a long tradition, there will be certain regulation, there will be certain practices, certain traditions, which will to a great extent influence the public policy. So I'll try to discuss a little bit about evolution of public policy. So we see that there are several scriptures of whatever is left. We know that large part of our scriptures, large part of our knowledge was lost during invasions. So only a few books, only a few manuscripts are so far known. But out of that also, we see that there is Manusmriti, also known as Manav Dharma Shastra, and there are also several other smritis. Then we have got Shukraniti. Then there are many such references from Ramayana and Mahabharata. Then we have got Arthashastra, which was written by Chanakya, which is a detailed book on political economy. So, right that like that, there are several references. Before going into detail what a particular author has written, we should be aware that India has a very, very long history of well developed society, polity, as well as economy. So we have a society which was not that everybody was farmers. We had different classes of people. There was a ruling class, there were academicians, there were artisans, businessmen, there were also people doing all other type of service jobs. So it was a well developed society with proper education system. It was a well developed society with a system of a kind of vision of welfare state. So polity or a political system was also developed. So it was not like only small city states in Europe or so. So we had got cities, then we have got Janapadas, then Mahajanapadas, and there was also Samrats who would rule the whole nation and so on. So the political system also was well developed. Within the political system, you would have uh, Pradhan, Mantris, Amatyas. So that structure was also well down. And out of this, economy was also well developed. So I'll just show you one table. Now this is a result of study by Angus Medicine. This was instituted by OECD in 1990, around 1990-95. So they have come out with a share of world GDP, and you can easily see that India had around 33%, nearly one third of GDP in 00, and even up to 1000, we had 29% share of world GDP. Post that, due to several invasions, due to several attacks, and many parts of India being captured by foreign rulers, our share went down. But we continued to have nearly 25% share up till 1700.
Sir, if you're changing the slides, it is not visible, sir.
No, no, right now I'm not
Oh,
changing.
okay, sorry, sorry.
So you see this table here, share of world GDP?
No, sir. We see contemporary public policy evolution.
Oh, then that's a big problem. I'll just go back. So are you able to see the slide
Yes,
now?
now it is changing. Yes.
You were here, is it?
Yes, we were there.
Thanks for reminding because I was changing. So we just discussed that we have got several scriptures, and then I went to this table. So is this table visible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because it's my data, it's very important that you can see it. Thanks for reminding again. So as you can see here, that in 00 we had roughly 33% share of world GDP, and even up to 1700 we were nearly one fourth of world economy. Post that, really our economy went down. This shows that we had a well developed society, polity, as well as economy. And mind well, these figures are not overstated. Rather, they are much understated. I have taken it as it is from OECD study. In reality, they could be much more on a higher side. And we are also aware that prior to 00, we have a long history for thousands of years. But as such, I am not showing that because the point is not about these figures, but just to understand that, yeah, this is in a graphical form, just to understand that India is not a story from rags to riches. We were economic empire, we had a well-developed society, and also the political system. Without a good public policy, this won't be possible. And it was not just one king or two kings or three kings. We had a long legacy in almost all parts of India, and that's where we can easily infer that there must be a very long tradition of public policy. Now, I hope you can see this. I think here I have to go full screen. So, can you see this cycle of yajna?
No, sir. No, sir.
This is
Now it is visible.
yeah. I mean, I know you can see it, but if it is full screen, you can actually see the animation. But fine, I'll go with this. So as you can see here, we had a system, or we had a practice of having a cycle of yajna. So yajna is a cycle of subsistence. It was not just about some fire. Fire is just a symbol where you sacrifice. So idea is Vyashti refers to a smaller entity. Maybe we can say as an individual. We are we are having a bigger entity which is a family. So when we are small, we get yogakshem from our family. So as we grow up, we have to give back our karma to family. It's not to get back anything. We are just giving in return of what we have already got. But bigger entity always gives us more, and that is called as karma phala. Again, we give back in the form of yajna. And this is a cycle of samruddhi or a subsistence which continuously keeps on growing. Because if we give back to bigger entity is healthy and it gives us back more. That's the idea of continuous cycle. So Vyashti being an individual versus Samashti can be considered as a family. But if you treat family as a Vyashti, then society becomes Samashti. If society is a Vyashti, the whole nature becomes Samashti, and so on. So this is not just about individual, it's about the whole of the whatever is there in the existence, you can say. So all our public policy was based on this concept of yajna or a cycle of subsistence. You can also take an example of a body, because in our body we literally have crores of cells, and each cells tries to perform the role to follow it. Then about efficiency wages, modern day labor relations, comparative advantage. Then there are several sections of Shukraniti Sara. So section 2 talks about polity in general and elements of economic thought in particular. Then section 3 is about dharmic role of the king. So how he should conduct himself or herself, how they have to give back. Then enumeration of vocations and sciences. expenditure, budgeting, public good, revenue generation, price, market regulation, contracts. And then the last section is about suggestions to households. So this was one example. There are several such uh, Niti Shastras. So earlier we talk about Dharma Shastra or Smritis. These are known as Niti Shastras. So these are relatively summarized versions. Then we know that Ramayana is a very famous text. And who was the Guru of Rama? Anyone has idea? So Maharshi Vasishtha was his Kulaguru. So he has given to an advice to Ram, which has been documented in the form of Yoga Vasishtha. So as the name suggests, it's about yoga and about personal behavior, but also has several policy direction. So this is one of the ancient texts on policy. Then Mahabharat, which is the biggest and the longest kind of text. Both these are known as Itihasa in our scriptures. So Mahabharata talks about Vidur Niti, wherein Vidur has advised Dhritarashtra and also Yudhishthira, and then Bhishma advises Yudhishthir just before he was to become king as to how you run the empire. So that advice is full of uh, how one should develop policies, how one should conduct as a king. Only just 2 days ago, we had Bhishma Ashtami. That is a day when Bhishma advised Yudhishthir for how one public policy should be developed. The next famous author is, of course, Chanakya, who is a philosopher, teacher, but at the same time a strategist who has written a well documented book as known as Arthashastra. I think many of you would be aware that this book was completely destroyed because all our libraries and knowledge sources were destroyed by invaders. So this book was all gone, and luckily in the library of Mysore Maharajas, this was found in 1935. Otherwise, there would be no book of that level with such a details. So Kautilya Arthashastra, many people would have written on it, again has written about both the economic laws, policies, how we should have. I'll just show this. So about governance, having welfare state, accounting, audit, and above all, of course, one should follow ethics. So I just skip this. So in Chanakya Niti, Chanakya or Kautilya says that Sukhasya Moolam Dharmaha. So if you want happiness, you should follow Dharma. Mind well, Dharma is not religion. Dharma is about duties. Dharmasya Moolam Artha. Because following Dharma requires lot of economic power, but Arthasya Moolam Rajyam. So Rajya is about political economy. So we need a strong, steady empire to have economic prosperity. But that Rajyasya Moolam Indriya Jaya. So in and Indriya Jayasya Moolam Vinaya. So Indriya Jaya and Vinaya is more about self-conduct. It is more about following morality, inner restraint, humility, and so on. So that is how everything is interconnected as per Chanakya. So Chanakya has actually two books. Chanakya Niti is a shorter one, a summary, and Arthashastra is a detailed text. So many of our ancient scriptures, though many of them have been already lost, do talk in detail about public policy. Then there are several texts from Buddha period or from Jain period, which are in the form of stories or our own Puranas, which gives case studies as to when a particular person, how did he behave, and on that lines, how public policy can be formed. Then we know that famous Tamil saint and philosopher Thiruvelluvar, he has written a book known as Thirukural. It talks about ethics and also political and economic matters, again laying down about public policy. Of course, emphasizing on faith in Bhagwan or Bhakti, but also having a proper moral laws as well as economic and other laws. So he has written a book of Purul. So I'm just skipping in the interest of time. Then Santa Kabir Das has also written, Santa Jnaneshwar from Maharashtra, then again Santa Tukaram from Maharashtra. They have also written not exactly a book, but have given some guidelines as to how you should have a good policy. And then in modern times, there are many authors, but particularly Dr. Ambedkar, who has written about ancient Indian commerce, his first thesis, which he presented in 1915. So he has mentioned how in ancient India there were commerce, government, and all the systems. And of course, he has many other writings also on economics and public policy. In more recent time, we have got Deen Dayal Upadhyay, who presented integral humanism and Antyodaya. So he advised Indian policymakers not to blindly copy Western concepts, whether it is individualism or communism or capitalism. So unfortunately, most of our policies in modern times crudely copied Western world, which brought in many negative parts of Western world, but we did not have the positive side. Whereas our culture had so many positive things which we should be proud of, but which were never taught or brought into policy. So we lost our culture or our greatness also. So Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji essentially advised that we have to follow policies which are based on original Bharatiya thought. Then he presented this integral approach. So if you remember in the beginning, we were talking about Yajna, a smaller entity giving to bigger entity. So here I think you will have a better idea. So this is generally known as a Varli or a traditional tribal dance form. But you can see in the center, there is a single individual. And our own consciousness goes up, and it's a spiral, it's not a concentric circle. So we are at an individual level, but we have a capacity to expand our consciousness. We ourselves go to family, society, nation, nature, right up to Parmeshti level. And of course we can come back, we can again go up. And that is where, whether it's an individual behavior of bureaucrats or behavior of king, was advised to be based on this concept, where your own consciousness should go up, and we feel like taking care of society, taking care of nation, taking care of nature, and so on, not as if we are giving to someone else, as if we have oneness with that broader entity. That's where the integral approach is very unique. And next is Dattopanta Thengdi. So he also has written a book known as Third Way. So Bharatiya Vicharadhishtit Tattva Chintan, as he calls it. So trying to emphasize that we have to follow our Bharatiya Paddhati while we finalize our development model or we decide our policy and so on. So there are some more details, but I'm just going ahead. Fine. So I've just closed the PPT. So as I said in the beginning, I'm really not expert of public policy, more on economics and finance side. So maybe more of my examples of those lines. But in short, what we can say is there are several elements of public policy which are there in our text or our viewpoint, and they are not materialistic. They are not just emphasizing a club of selfish individuals, as it happens in most of the Western policies. It is more like we treating ourselves as a part of bigger whole. When I say we, as an individual, and also as a ruler, as a king, and so on. So this policy definitely has a regulation, but it's not fully dependent on regulation. It tries to emphasize that everyone has to follow it as a dharma. We know that modern times also, now there's an emphasis on self-regulation, because law cannot regulate everyone unless citizens want to follow out of their inner consciousness. Policies and laws cannot be really uh, dictated or really forced. It has to come from within. And I think that was crux of Bharatiya thought. And for thousands of years, we really had a very samruddha samaj, a developed samaj, because of this type of policies. And I hope you would have a great time listening to the whole series. With this, I'll stop and I'm open for any questions and so on. Namaste, Dhanyavad.
So before we get into questions, can I ask everybody to switch on their cameras? We'll take a photograph, group photograph, and then quickly we'll go to questions. Quickly, like 30 seconds, literally 30 seconds. Once my screen is full, I will take the picture. My screen is still not full. 39 others have yet to switch on their cameras.
नहीं, I think let them ask question. वो थोड़ा उनको time लगेगा to get ready and put the mic on, camera on. So I mean, one or two questions can be asked in the meantime.
Sure, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful session. It was really enjoying to hear you speaking. Sir, I had a question. Sir, my name is Vedika. I'm from TIS, Guwahati. Sir, when we discuss about the origins of public policy, sir, as you also mentioned about ancient texts like the Manusmriti and other shastras, sir. But sir, if we delve deeper into it, they have historically influenced governance. And sir, how valid are these shastras, sir, when they have inherent social hierarchies? You even spoke about B.R. Ambedkar, sir, and he propagate
Thoda
texts,
your
sir.
voice is breaking. What
So,
you said, they had inherent.
sir, inherent social inequalities, sir. They told a person how to live, sir. Sir, I feel personally also that this needs to be addressed, sir. On the contrary, if we speak about, sir, Bhagavad Gita, that I feel that it offers more of knowledge, profound knowledge, sir. And I feel that Bhagavad Gita, for example, that is not discriminatory, and it teaches us about the way of living also. So, sir, why do we not look more at texts like Bhagavad Gita and refer to more texts like Manusmriti, which are, sir, kind of regressive according to me? So, good. Thank you, sir.
Okay, a very good question, because see, a Western viewpoint of looking at our shastras have created many misgivings, and many wrong translations were deliberately done, so that our shastras, I mean, we ourselves feel that our shastras are discriminatory and so on. We don't have long time to discuss on it, but I'll try to give a short answer. So I am not at all saying that, for example, Bhagavad Gita should not be referred. I very much appreciate it. In fact, my shloka on karma yoga was very much from that. But in today's presentation, I talked more on Manusmriti or Shukraniti or Chanakya, because they are related to public policy. So I hope you understood that Shrutis are kind of principles. So Bhagavad Gita is like a summary of Vedas and Upanishads. ये principle बताता है. Actual practice में क्या लाना है? We have to go to Smritis. And unfortunately, because of wrong translation or wrong information, many people today feel that they are discriminatory and so on. But actually, it's not at all so. If you look at the time when which they were talking, say about 10 or 15,000 years ago, when the whole world had slavery, एक रेस दूसरे रेस को पकड़ के जहाँ के स्लेव बनाता था, भारत में there was no slavery. When women were completely unsafe, Manu Maharaj says that take care of women. It gives so many duties on men for women. It emphasizes on duties for all class of people. So it is a very, understand that we are a very advanced society. जैसे गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट में देयर बी क्लास 1 क्लास 2 क्लास 3 है ना. एवरीबॉडी इज अ फार्मर, देयर वोंट बी क्लासेस. Because our society is advanced, there were classes, but they were not discriminatory at all. They were giving actually duties to everyone, so that it's a welfare of everyone. And as you know, Bhagavad Gita says that yes, out of your karmas, you can move from one level to another. So there is no higher or lower level. You are doing one occupation. If you want to go to another occupation, you learn and enter that occupation. So I won't go into much detail, but in general, I would say that. So I am not saying only follow Manusmriti. There are so many Smritis. Manusmriti is the oldest and unnecessarily given bad name. So that is 15,000 years ago. उसके बाद में इतने सारे स्मृतिज आए because as society developed. So, but because we were talking about public policy, then we have to look at these type of shastras. And we should also understand that something written 15,000 years or 20,000 years ago will not be applicable as it is now. We don't have to say कि हम लोग इंडियंस है, हमारे सब ग्रंथों में जो लिखा है वो सब ग्रेट है. Not at all. Our ancestors themselves always said that we have to keep on updating ourselves. We are not exclusivist. We don't say that everything written at that time is fully applicable. In fact, most of the things won't be applicable. But the principles over written over there are useful. Then looking at current times, current technology, we have to adopt to today's times. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, one more question and everyone has to put on the cameras. Huh? अभी time मिला है आपको.
Saurav, you can go next. I've taken the photograph, so we can go with questions without.
Okay, fine.
Saurav, you can go next. Harsh after that. Saurav, do you have a question? If not, Harsh, you can ask the question. Harsh, go ahead. Harsh, can you hear me?
Yes,
Did you have a question?
sir. As you say that ki there are in our spiritual books like Shastra and the Mahabharata and Ramayana, there was some the principles are given, but there are some principles that don't I don't think that कि वो अभी के लिए अच्छे हैं अपने लिए क्योंकि एज पर वी से कि अगर हम रामायण पढ़ते हैं तो करंटली रामायण के जो प्रिंसिपल है वो कुछ प्रिंसिपल अच्छे कुछ प्रिंसिपल करंट सिचुएशन में वी कांट फॉलो दैट सो व्हाट द थिंग इज दैट कि हमें पूरे प्रिंसिपल ही फॉलो करने पड़ेंगे करना अच्छा रहेगा या जो अभी के लिए अच्छे वो फॉलो करने अच्छा रहेगा.
Yeah, again a good question. Of course, we have to follow what is relevant today, but I'll just give my comment. देखो, principles are largely good. I'm not saying 100%, but 80-90% they are followable even now. जो उपनिषदों में लिखा है वगैरह वगैरह. रामायण is more a history. It's a story. So रामायण में क्या होगा, कुछ कुछ प्रिंसिपल्स रहेंगे, ज्यादा करके पॉलिसीज रहेंगे. Today's talk was on policy, so I emphasize on rule, regulation, etc. Rule regulations would largely become outdated because जैसे time change होगा, we have to change our policies. So definitely very few will be followable in what was followed that time, and we have to completely follow mostly new policies. एंड महाभारत या पुराणास में क्या है, अलग अलग स्टोरीज दी है, जैसे केस स्टडीज है कि इन दिस सिनारियो दिस इज हाउ द पर्सन बिहेव. सो फ्रॉम दैट वी हैव टू लर्न एंड देन what is important for today's time we have to follow. Obviously we should not try to follow most of it as it is. We have to just learn and take a tattva from it or principle from it. Thank you. You can write in the chat as well. Huh? Rahul has already requested for sharing of PPT. I'll do it post the session. Yeah, Aditya is writing something. And anyone else, till that time, you can ask the question. Okay, Aditya has said that if we have to read our Shastras from public policy point of view, how from and from where one should start. Again, I am not a great person to answer it because I am not a scholar in Sanskrit or such things. But what I would say is, one source is जो translate हो चुका है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल चाणक्य है, चाणक्य नीति है या अर्थशास्त्र है. From there we can read and take principles. But almost 95% of manuscripts have still not been read or translated. So some of you can learn Sanskrit and read the original manuscript, or pick some manuscript, get it translated, and then learn from that. All such approaches you can go ahead. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Yes, sir. So Aditya is saying, thank you.
Is there any other question? You can start raising your hands and ask the question. No question. Everybody start raising your hands. We'll go by order. Don't wait till the people finish they asking the question. Prince, you can go ahead.
Hi, good evening, sir. Prince this side. Sir, we have the concept of Purusarth, that is Artha, Dharma, Kam, Moksha. But for the monarchs, they can do anything for the territorial expansion and welfare of the state. So, how can our monarch adopt the Purusarth just because for the territorial expansions they might go for the mass killing and all? So, by the this they can't accept the concept of Dharma.
You would be aware that we had a concept of Dharma Yuddha. So they cannot go for mass killing. If you follow a concept of Dharma Yuddha, if you know, I mean, the famous one documented is Mahabharat War. So
Yes, sir.
महाभारत का वॉर दिन में होता था, शाम में लोग एक दूसरे के कैंप में जाते थे. एक बार सूरज ढल गया तो देयर कैन बी नो किलिंग. Then there were many other rules that you can never kill a lady or a small kid. जो लड़ने के लिए आया है युद्ध भूमि में, उसके ऊपर ही शस्त्र चलाया जा सकता है.
Yes, sir.
So you know that these rules were violated by Navneet. Just silently.
Yes, sir.
You know that these rules were violated by Ashwathama, and then he got a sharp for it. So
Yes, sir.
normally, most of the kings were not violating it. It was largely followed. So definitely, as a king, you can go for territorial expansion. जैसे आज एक company है तो you can expand your market, but you cannot touch the citizens of other country. You can just attack the king, attack the soldiers. ऐसे बहुत सारे rules थे. So it was expected that while following dharma only, you should go for your purusharthas. And
Yes,
anyway,
sir.
the major goal was welfare of everybody. So welfare state was the final goal.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Any other thoughts? Any other comments? Any thought threads that came out of this session? You can please share also. If not, we will go to for the vote of thanks. Last call for any questions. Okay, Alok, please. Others, if you have questions, please raise hands so that we can put a queue. Alok, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. I'm Alok. So my question is, while you were explaining, you told that 20% of the investment should be on the charity, and 40% should be self-invest, and 40% should be on consumption, right? And one more thing, and we have to think about the like longer duration. But the in Indian philosophy, there is a philosophy, Lokayata school of philosophy, where Charvaka says that one should like, it's a unorthodox, I mean heterodox school of philosophy, which talks about eat, drink, make merry. So it contradicts the same Indian philosophies which were said before. So how do you say which one should be followed? Like, it's a personal choice, but what's your thought on this?
Because see, we had a full freedom of expression, speech, and there were discussions, points put forth by everybody. So, as much as I know, I'm not expert in the field. Charvaka put forth a materialistic philosophy, very close to what Western material philosophy is there. So, in that sense, also we can say that Indian scriptures are actually much older, even for materialism or materialistic ideology. But he was more an exception. Almost all other philosophies talk about welfare of other people, even that is material, even that is, I mean, for good of us. So we have to take care of others so that everyone takes care of each other and larger society becomes a happy and safe place. That was idea of most of our philosophers. Of course, abhi individually one can even follow charva. That's the beauty of our shastras, that it gives freedom to everyone to express, put forth their point, and then people can choose. बट फॉर किंग्स, बिकॉज सिंस आवर टॉक इज ऑन पब्लिक पॉलिसी, किंग्स के लिए जो गुरुओं ने एडवाइस किया है, वेदर इट इज शुक्र नीति, बिकॉज शुक्राचार्य वाज गुरु ऑफ असुरास, he also lays down certain principles. Asuras are materialistic people. Even for them, he lays down certain principles. So largely it says that for public policy, one has to follow welfare of many people. I mean, keep welfare of many people in mind. It's not as if king is a ruler. Understand कि हमारे यहाँ राजा और प्रजा का concept है. प्रजा means प्रजा is like the kids of Raja. It's not like master and servant relationship. It's almost like a family type of relationship where the ruler, king, मैं अच्छे शब्द नहीं प्रयोग कर सकता हूँ because they're English words. भारतीय शब्द राजा है. राजा और प्रजा जो है वो राजा के बच्चे जैसे है. That was the idea of our philosophy. And thank you.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with this one. It was a very you took us through the many ebbs and flows of Indian civilization with different in different geographies, also talking about different advisors to different kings who and other administrators and rishis of the past who laid how Indians lived 15,000 years ago to today, and all the stalwarts that have laid the path for how we would be governed as a society instead of letting Matsinaya take over. It was a lovely session. As always, we always look forward to listening to you every time when this comes up. Thank you so much for taking the session, and I'm sure everybody had a wonderful experience here. Looking forward to having you on the next session as well. Thank you once again. And
Okay,
thank you to
bye.
all
Let's
participants for your active listening and active participation and all your interesting questions. Uh, we can have, yeah, we can close. Unfortunately, I have to catch a cab in the next minute because otherwise my flight will go away. But we can have a free-flowing discussion next session. Tomorrow we will be having Srimati Suparna Divakar, who has been a founding dean at the Indian